Hello everyone and welcome to my fantasy journey, a channel dedicated to opinion-based fantasy book reviews. Today we're going to be talking about yet another animal-related fantasy book. I picked up this book actually because when I saw it, I said like, that kind of reminds me of Redwall. And by that time I was looking for, some good kind of animal-centered fantasy books, very much like in the style of Redwall and stuff like that, or, just like fantasy books that had animals as main characters and stuff like that. So I saw this book and like I said, it reminded me of Redwall and I was like, why not? Let's give it a try, let's see what it brings to the table. So yeah, let's just dive right into the review for today. So the book that I'm going to be discussing today is Urchin of the Writing Stars, and this is the Miss Mental Chronicles Book 1 by M.I. McAllister. So I'm going to start by saying, actually reading a little bit of what this book is about. I've read this a little bit. My mind is not the best, so I feel like whenever I try to describe the books in my own words, it's not like the best description. I do remember what the book is about, obviously, and stuff like that, but I feel like it's better if I just go ahead and read the back of the book, because it will give you a better summary. But anyway, so it says here, on a night of writing stars, a tiny squirrel is found abandoned and close to death on a distant beach. Adopted and raised by the warm-hearted apple in a welcoming colony of animals, Urchin has no idea of his powerful destiny or mysterious origins. The rule of the good King Brushin and Queen Spindle is threatened by an evil plot from within the court. When their young son is found murdered, the isle is thrown into turmoil. Behind the scenes, the wicked Lord Husk and Lady Aspen are determined to take control, but to underestimate the power of the islanders and the ancient prophecy is a big mistake. Triumphant heroes and brilliantly wicked villains do battle in this heart-stopping adventure, in the great tradition of Watership Down and The Wind in the Willows. I would never compare this book to The Wind in the Willows, ever. It's not in the that's a lie. It's more... they didn't want to mention Redwall here because I feel like the books are just too similar. But I would say, I haven't read Watership Down, I've heard of it, but I would say Watership Down and Redwall, not The Wind in the Willows. This is completely different from another... this is more like I wouldn't say like super epic, but it's more like in the epic, like high fantasy kind of genre instead of, like The Wind in the Willows. So, anyways, that was just like a little comment that I had. So, I'm going to talk first about the things that I liked about this book. I'm gonna say first that for me this book was a little bit it wasn't that great. Later on I will talk a little bit more about it, but anyways, I'm gonna jump right into the things that I liked. So I liked the animals, of course. I think it was really cool, that the animals lived in like this colony, this isle together, and there was like this how do I say this, mixture, because not only like the squirrels lived in that island, this is not a book only about squirrels. Just like in Redwall, there are other animals like badgers and hedgehogs and stuff like that. So I think that was really cute, like the animals and the squirrels and stuff like that, of course, because I was looking for like animal, kind of centered fantasy book. So yeah, of course, that the element was there. So I like that. The world was different, it's like I said, it's not like a world per se, they're like little isles, or islands, I'm sorry, that they live in, so I think that was pretty different. It's not my favorite, like I'm going to mention later. It wasn't like my favorite world, actually, but it was still original, I think, and it was still pretty cool later on when when some things happen and they have to like get out of the island and they discover other things. So I think that was pretty interesting. Something else that I liked was the book was, it was pretty interesting, with the mystery that was going on, which is another thing that I like. There is a lot of mystery. So even though it's not like the best book, it's not like my favorite book, it kept me entertained, because there was a lot of mystery going on between, inside the kingdom with the people, like it says here, the Lord Husk and Lady Aspen, what they were plotting against the kingdom and against the king, and who did this and who did that, and like why did they do this, how did they do it, and what's gonna happen next. So there was a lot of like good mystery that kept you pretty interested. So I think that was well done, and I think that was pretty cool. Um, I think that the evil and good in this book was very well portrayed. Like the pure-hearted, the brave, the wickedly evil, the silent evil. Because there are some people who are silent but they're evil, or they pretend that they're good and they're very evil. Uh, so I think that was really very well portrayed. And like those characteristics of being noble, being sincere, being brave, being sacrificing yourself for the sake of others, um and loss, and betrayal and treason and stuff like that. That was very very well portrayed. And then evil, like, and feelings like envy and just like greed. There are actually some scenes that were almost scary, I would say, in this book, that were actually pretty frightening. With the Lord Husk, and stuff that just let me like, ooh, that sounds kind of scary. If it wasn't because they were squirrels and stuff like that, this would be actually kind of terrifying. And it still was, even though they were squirrels and stuff like that. But there were some scenes that were just like, I was like, whoa, that's kind of intense. So yeah, there is also a lot of violence. So even though it's an animal book, it's not furry and cute, and like, that's why I said also that it wasn't at all like The Wind in the Willows. Even though they were animals, it wasn't a cozy, feel-good, soft book. There was actually a lot of violence and a lot of, evil feelings and a lot of action. So that's a good thing, I think, and I think the author portrayed it really well. So I did enjoy that. But like I said, there were some scenes that were pretty intense, and some scenes that you just left me like, whoa, like, that's evil, that's really hardcore. So I think that was pretty interesting. I think that definitely helped this book be a little bit more interesting. Something else that I liked was that it wasn't overly long. So yeah, this book is how many pages? That's 282, but it reads really quickly. So I didn't feel overly long. It reads fairly quickly, so I think that's a good thing. This is, like I said, this is the book one, so there are more. I think there are 5. I thought there were 3 first. I have the second one as well, which I can't remember what it was called, but I do have the second book in the series. But I believe there are 5 books. So yeah, it's a fairly quick read. So that's a good thing as well. It wasn't overly long and it didn't feel that exhausting or anything. So that being said, let's move on to the things that I didn't like. I felt I just couldn't help feeling stuck in the world, like in the world that they built. Even though it was interesting and different, I just didn't feel like it explored enough. I felt, I was hoping for more of an adventure, and like, this actually happened to me in Redwall as well. But I will say I did like the world at Redwall more. And even though this one was more interesting because, Redwall was just like this countryside, this was like an island, and I think that was very different. And even though the world seemed, pretty interesting, I just couldn't help feeling stuck. And yeah, I wanted to explore more and, see more of the island or the Icelands and stuff like that. So that's something that I didn't really like. It made me feel stuck a lot of times, and I just wanted to move more, I felt like a little bit stuck, so yeah. Yeah, the book itself was just okay. It wasn't great, it wasn't super engaging, it wasn't that, impactful, if that's even a word. It was just okay. I didn't find anything outstanding about it, except for the things that I said about the evil and stuff like that. But nothing really that just like made me go like, wow, like super absurd, that like absorbed me and just like kept me there in the edge of my seat, or just like kept me like wanting to read more and stuff like that. I actually, like I said, I have the second book. I'll read it eventually, but it's not like I'm dying to read it, So the book itself was just okay. It didn't really cause me that much emotion or just feelings or anything. It was just okay. Yeah, and something that that I didn't really like. It was still interesting, and I think she used the author, she or he, I don't remember, used it in a good way. But there's more of a political aspect, more of a power, treason, loyalty, that kind of aspect, in the court and royalty, and you know, magic wise, there really isn't that. I wouldn't say that. I would actually say that there's, well, except obviously like talking animals, but I mean, uh, it's more about, it's more about a political aspect and about power and about, those kind of like things that happen in court, like I said, treason, struggle for power, greed, betrayal and stuff like that. So if you're into that, then you will enjoy more of this book. And while I do appreciate it, it's, it wasn't that really that entrancing, that, interesting for me. It was just okay, it kept it interesting, but it's not something that I would read about all the time. So I don't really think I have more to say about this book. It was just okay. It wasn't bad at all, but it wasn't great either. It was just okay. Almost like Redwall. If you guys saw my review for Redwall, I kind of said the same thing, that it was just okay. It wasn't horrible, of course. It wasn't bad, but it's not something that kept me like, oh my gosh, But I don't like making comparison, like I don't like to compare. But if I had to, if I had to compare and if I had to choose, Redwall versus this one, I would choose Redwall. Yeah, because I don't know, there's something that I liked about it a little bit more, even though the Redwall series is so freaking long. I don't even know how many books. I think there's more than 10 books in the series, and I don't think I'll ever read them all. Well, maybe I will, who knows, but I don't, judging from the first book, I don't think I'll have the enough motivation to read it. I probably get to like I have the second book, which is Mossflower, and maybe if I like that one enough, then maybe I'll read the third one, but I don't know. I don't see myself doing that in the future. Who knows, but there are so many books in the series. This one's just 5, which is actually pretty decent length as well for a series. But I would say that I did like Redwall a little bit more than this one, because I feel like I liked the world more. But I will say that for this one, I did like the plot a little bit more, because it was more mysterious and a little bit more different, and it kept you a little bit more intrigued, and stuff like that. So from Redwall, I like the world and the setting and the feel of it more than this one. But from this one, I kind of like the plot, the mystery, and the things that were going on a little bit more. So yeah, they both have strengths and weaknesses, but I think I would choose Redwall over this one. So yeah, who would I recommend this with? Who would I recommend this to? I'm sorry. If you love, like I mentioned before, if you love animals, if you love animal-centered books, then you would like this one. If you like books that are more in a little bit more epic, high fantasy kind of style. If you like, even though this is an animals book, like I said, if you like action a lot, it's not like this book is like super mega full of action, but there is a pretty decent amount of it. So if you like more, more of those books also with more of a political power, kind of like treason and loyalty, and like, a hero that has to save like the island and stuff like that kind of aspect, with more like of a high fantasy, world that's not real, and more action-driven plot and stuff like that, and like a darker tone, then you would like this one. Who would I not recommend this to? Well, if you didn't like Redwall, then you you won't like this. And, if you are into very magical books, or if you are not into, like, animals, because I know there are a lot of people who are not, a friend of mine actually isn't. So if you're not into animals, because there are no humans in this book, so if you're not into animals taking control of everything, and you prefer more lighthearted, or books that are more concentrated on magic, and if you like more of a bigger world, more adventure and stuff like that, then maybe this book isn't going to be for you. But if you like Redwall, then I feel like you will like this one, and I feel like it's worth giving it a try if you loved Redwall. So yeah, so that's who I would and would not recommend it to. What would I give this book? I would give it a 3 stars, kind of being generous. Um, 3 stars, I think, because like I said, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great either, you know. I feel like 2.5 would just mean that it was bad, so it wasn't bad, it was just okay. So I think 3 stars is a fair enough rating for this book. So yeah, Urchin of the Writing Stars, The Mistmantle Chronicles, Book 1. So tell me, you guys, have you read this book? Have you read Redwall? If you have, and if you have read this one too, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer Redwall or do you prefer The Mistmantle? Let me know. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you read this book, if you read the whole series, if you read the second book, all those things. Do you like animal centered, you know, kind of like fantasy books? Do you not like it? Let's talk about this book in the comment section and all those good stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you want to embark on this journey with me, please feel free to do so and subscribe to my channel. I'll be uploading more cool reviews from really nice fantasy books. So yeah, so if you want to join me on that, you're more than welcome to do so. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next book review. Keep reading. Cheers.